Okay, just as always, we're gonna create a new project by creating a new folder. I'm gonna call this one currency converter. After we create our currency converter, I'm gonna move into it. Now, because I'm the project manager, scrum master, technical lead, whatever, I'm gonna do the initial setup. Get in it. Okay, now we see that we have master. Okay, so now it's time to run git add all, git commit message, initial commit. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create all our, did we already create our files? Let's go ahead and create all the files we need for every single project, an index.html, a style.css, a script.js. Additionally, I'm gonna go ahead and create all the folders that we need, okay? We're gonna make directory 3 times. Now I'm gonna open up the code editor. I expect to see the 3 folders we created, as well as the 3 files that we created. Nice. So we're gonna drag our scripts into JS, we're gonna grab our style into CSS. At this point, we need to update our HTML. We're gonna add all the basic setup. So I'm gonna change the title. We're gonna call this currency converter. Now we need to link to our styles.css. It's inside of a folder called CSS, inside of a file called style.css. At this point, let's go ahead and smoke test. The background color of red. Okay, now we've written some initial code. We think that it's going to work. We need to test. We're constantly testing as we go. So we're gonna start up our server, and the expectation is that if everything went well already, we should see a red background. Let's go ahead and kick on that server. It's kicking up, and we see a red background. So everything has gone A-OK. So let's go ahead and smoke test our JS file. So we're gonna do a console.log, hello Sierra. If I save this and jump to and check out our console, should we see the hello Sierra in the console? Wrong. We have not yet linked to it yet, so we do not see it. Some of you are right, some of you are wrong. Okay. So now we're gonna go down to the body, the end of our body. We're gonna link with a script tag, and then we're gonna go into JS, and then we go scripts.js. We save it, we jump back over, and did we see hello Sierra? So remember, the reason why I'm throwing the console log in there is not because I want to say hello to you guys. It's because I want to test to make sure that we've correctly linked the file, okay? We need to get that JavaScript code inside this HTML file. Okay, so we're building a currency converter. Currency. You guys know, here, I want you guys to, one second. Let's code this to a currency. Okay, I updated this lab yesterday. This is what we're looking at, guys. Okay, we have an input, we have some buttons, and it converts some money, okay? And it's not working right, so that's okay. We're gonna fix this right now. We're gonna build one entirely new. So we can see that we have a header. This header does what? It tells the user what we need them to do. We save, we jump back over, we now see our header, okay? So now, what was the next thing that we saw? We need to have a ability to select, right? The user needs to be able to select what currency they currently have. So we're gonna start in this case off by doing the select. So we're gonna do ID and we're gonna say from. Inside our select tags, we need to have options. Oops. And for example, this value, we're gonna say USD is USD. Now we're gonna copy this one down, okay? This one's gonna be VND. And this one's gonna be GBP, okay? So at this point, we have a select tag. And remember how we're constantly talking about moving slow? This is the simplest, my bad. This is the simplest select tag that we can make, right? We have a select, inside of it, we have one option, okay? But I trust you guys are smart enough to understand that it's okay to put 3 inside of here for this contrived example. So now the question becomes, how can we programmatically extract the value out inside of this select box out for use? So we're gonna use document by get element by ID. And what did we call it a second ago, guys? And Steven is correct. Ed is correct. We called it from. So now we're gonna type this in. We're just gonna test to make sure this bad boy works. And did we correctly find the element? Yes, we did. So now we can simply type in value. Oops. Is it value? Okay, it's value, not value. So a second ago, we just ran this command when USD was selected. If we switch over to VND and then we run the command again, I suspect, my hypothesis is that we will see VND. And is that the behavior we observe in our console? Yes, it is. So we're gonna do it one more time just to confirm. Now, after we change it to Great British Pound, we run the command again. I expect that we see GBP. And we do in fact see GBP. Okay, excellent. So now we have proven that we understand JavaScript well enough to extract the value from the select. So let's go ahead and move to the to now. So we do this one, we run it again. Obviously we need to switch the to, or the from to the to. So now my hypothesis is that now when we run the exact same command, changing out the arguments to change out the behavior of the function call, then we will see that it does in fact extract the value from the right one and not the left one. So I hit enter, and did we get VND? We got VND. What was selected up here? It's VND, guys. Come on, all we gotta do is read it. So now if we do the same thing for from, what should we expect to see? If I select GBP, what do I see? And we do, in fact, observe that behavior, okay? So now the next step is, we've figured out what the user wants, or what the user has. Have we figured out what the user has yet? Not exactly. Our code is actually not that good. We need to have another header here. We need to have a label or something. We need to say H3 from currency. To currency. This might look ugly, but okay, that looks okay. That looks all right. So now we're gonna add one more thing. We're gonna add an input here, and we're gonna say what in here? Number. Okay, we save, we jump back, and now we can see that we can't enter any characters other than E. Okay, E is a special character that means like exponential. Okay, so we're just gonna leave this right now. We have this value, so how can we extract the value out of here? We do document.get element by tag name, potentially, and now we can pass it in an input, and we found the input. And specifically, this is different. We need to find which one, because we can find many inputs on here. So I'm going to show you that we don't only have to use get element by ID. We can also get elements by the tag name. But the behavior here is a little bit different. This will give you an array back of many different elements. And I know that it's the 0 index Y. Someone help me out. Why do I know that it's the 0 index, guys? Exactly. There is only one input. There's no other way that this can go. There's only one input. We could also do -1, I believe. Oops. -2. Okay, I lied. It's 0. Okay, we do 0, and then we do dot value. And does the value correspond to what we have up here? What if I entered 10, and I ran that command again? It does in fact say 10. Okay? Yes, it's a string, so that's one other problem that we're gonna have to have in just a second. Okay, so I can tell you that the UI is almost done. We need one more thing, guys. What else do we need? Yes, because when the user selects something, they select here, and then they type, we need to capture the intent. We need to capture the user's intent, that they're prepared to make the conversion. Because right now, just because they select this, and then they select this, and then they enter a value, does not mean they're prepared. What if they type something wrong? What if they want to click back? We need to capture the intent from the user. And the vast majority of the times that we're going to capture intent, we're going to have an input or a button. Okay, we're going to wait for the user to click it, or we're going to wait for the user to type in something. So right now we're going to put a button, and then we're going to say convert. Just say convert for right now. Okay. So now we're going to enter a value. We want USD. And now I want the default value to be VND right here instead for the second one. So all you gotta do is change the order, okay? So I put VND first for the 2, and you guys will observe that VND is now the first one. If I put GBP first, you guys will observe that GBP is the first one, okay? This is the simplest way you guys can do this. So I'm gonna do VND because we're in Vietnam. Probably you're gonna want VND. Okay, so now we're gonna click this button. We can see that we did click the button. What tells you guys that we've clicked it? Yes, the light, right? But the fact of the matter is that we don't see any behavior. we do want to have some behavior, right? So we need to add what is called a different attribute here, okay? It's the on-click attribute. So I'm just gonna throw in a test. Test we're just gonna test. That's all we're gonna do, okay? So whatever goes inside the on-click, it needs to be the name of a function. It needs to have these two parentheses, and guess what this will do? This will fire that function if the function exists. So I'm gonna save it right now. I'm gonna click the button, and you guys are gonna see that JavaScript complains. It's like, I don't know what the fuck test means. Test is not defined. It's telling you that I don't know what the fuck test means. What the fuck does test mean? So there's a very simple solution to fix this. All we gotta do is define the function. It's telling you that it's undefined, or it's not defined, okay? It's not defined. So if we define a function called test, then we console.log, this is the test function. We save it, we jump back here. If I click this button, we're not going to see a complaint. We're going to see a console log, right? So now you can think of the on-click as tying. It's like saying like, hey, this button, it corresponds to a specific function. And the specific function that it corresponds to is the one inside of the value, right? On the left is the attribute, on the left is the value, okay? So we're not going to just name a stupid test function. We're gonna say convert currency. We're gonna paste here, save. So now what do we need to do inside of here, guys? We need to extract out some values. And we're not gonna prompt the user, we're just going to look at what they selected already, right? Because when they click this button, the understanding is that like they've already selected the thing that they want here, blah, 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 and then they need the amount, and then click convert. We need to read these values. We're gonna grab these values out of the user interface. So how can we do that? Document, let's just test, get element by ID, and we're gonna do the from. Okay, now we want the value, and that did in fact work. So now we can just copy this and paste it in here. We can say const from is equal to this thing, and now we can just copy down because we know that like the pattern is very similar. Okay, so now we're just going to do const amount is equal to. Now we need to get the last one. Okay, we've successfully gotten the from and the to. Who agrees that we've gotten the from and the to? Why don't I see anyone's hands up? We got it, guys. Come on, guys. How can we confirm it? Just console.log, red Superman, and then we do from, and then to. So if I refresh, I guarantee you I click this button, we see USD and BND. Do we see USD and BND? If I switch this to GBP and then this to USD, I click it, I guarantee you these values are different. GBP, USD. A thing I should mention here is that we want to wrap all of your code inside of a function because we only want these document things to fire when the user has successfully communicated their intent. Some of you guys have ran into bugs because you guys are trying to put this code outside of the function. Okay, some of you guys have already run into that. I'm telling you right now, put it inside the function. Okay, so we successfully got the from and the to. Now it comes time to get the number. So what was it again? Document.get. Get by tag name, okay? So we're gonna fire it. We need to pass it an argument, the input. Once again, if I do dot value, it's gonna complain. That doesn't work. Doesn't work. What we need to do is look at a specific index, the first one, because it's gonna find all the inputs. We only want one, the first one. And then inside of the first one, now we want the value. Does that work? Yes, because there's nothing in here. That's why it doesn't, there. So we do confirm. We'll click the, my bad. I jumped ahead. I typed something in here. We'll run it again. And then we'll see that it does in fact work. So we're gonna copy this. And now we're gonna say const amounts is equal to this value right here. So there's now a point we need to do validation. We need to say, hey, if the amount is what? Not equal to, is not of type number. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. What we want to check is make sure that there's a number in there, because if there's nothing in there, right, can we perform a calculation? If I do this and we get an empty string, can we perform a calculation with that? No, we cannot. So we're gonna say, hey, const Parse number is equal to parse int, and we're going to stick in the amount. Now we're going to say, hey, parse int, it needs to be, I'm showing you something new, okay? I'm showing you something new. Type of. So we're just going to look at the type of data it is. We're going to say, is it equal to number? So now we do console.log was a number. Otherwise, what should we do here, guys? We can do console.log not a number. Not a number. So we're just going to leave this right here. We're going to refresh. I'm typing E, do convert. Whoa, that's weird. So now I don't know what's going on here. Obviously, my logic is flawed. Okay? So now I'm just going to console.log here. Okay? We're constantly doing this. So we do type of this thing right here. And we're just going to look at what it is. And we're also going to look at its type. Okay? Refresh. I type in E, convert. So it is not a number. Huh. Parse number is not a number. The first time we console log, it's not a number. Second time it says number. Interesting. Give me a second, I'll look into this, guys, please. This is kind of throwing me off right now, okay, please? I'll look into this in a second. So let's just trust that our user doesn't want to fuck with us. Our user really wants to perform some calculation to determine what they have, okay? So now what we're going to do, why is this working? I'm super confused. One. Okay, so this is it. Let's just pretend that let's just parse it, okay? So on line 6, what we're saying is take that value inside of the amount and make it a number. Force it to be a number, okay? So watch this. So like if I take, so for example, if I have a 1 right here and I do type of, what do we see? Right? So what if we do parse int? Now it is a number. It's going to take a string and make it so that we can perform mathematical calculations on it. So that's all we're doing here on line 6. Okay, so now the question becomes, how can we get a most recent conversion rate? And once again, I keep telling you guys this because this is the reality, right? The reality is that sometimes your technical lead is going to tell you, you're going to say, I don't know how to do this. And then your technical lead is going to say something like, okay, give me a second. Something like that. And then they're going to walk away. And then an hour later, they're going to come to your desk and say, here's some code. Here's some magical code for you. I want you to use it. And they're going to explain to you what it does. And then you're going to figure out how to take that code and stick it in your code. Because they actually helped you, okay? When they went and collected that code for you, they're helping you do your job, okay? So please understand that this is going to happen to you in your career, where someone is going to give you a little piece of code that solves this one problem that you have, and that, like, you guys need to know how to do that. To take a piece of code that someone who's way better than you told you that this is what it does, and apply it to your code base, right? So this is what we're going to do right now. So just a minute ago, our technical lead walked in and they said, okay. You want to have the most recent calculation for the conversion rate. So we're just going to look. I found the endpoint for you right here. Oops. This is the endpoint. This is the endpoint right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you another tool that you need to know how to use right now. Postman. I've already told you about this tool. I guarantee you guys will want to know how to use this tool in the future. So Postman is a tool that does not order you grab. It does not help you find a date this Friday. This tool, its only purpose in life is to help us perform or check our APIs. All you need to do is just paste in whatever it is right here that you want to, whichever API is that you want to call. Once you do that, Postman is smart enough to parse it. This word parse I keep talking about, parse. Parse means like translate. It kind of like means translate or convert, okay? So basically, Postman is going to look at the URL and then parse it for you and tell you what the query parameters are. So notice how that if I unclick this Q right here, the Q right here equals VND disappears. Watch it. And the same thing is obviously true for others. Okay? So just know that this thing right here, after the question mark, now you can have key equals value. These are like the arguments to a function. They will change how the function behaves. I promise you that's what they do. So watch. We're going to test the API one time. I'm going to send an API request, Because we're making it with a query parameter, with a Q right here is short for query. Okay, so it's saying, hey, what type of query would you like to make? So right now we're gonna go ahead and run this bad boy and we're gonna see what happens. Because our query parameter is from USD to VND, our response is going to be a USD to VND conversion rate. Is that correct? Is that the behavior we observe? So obviously if I switch this to KRW, and I hit send, I call this API, then the conversion rate is different. Okay? So this API is also like a function. It will behave differently depending on its inputs, depending on its parameters. And these things right here are the parameters. Every single thing after the question mark, I know this is hard for you guys to see in the back, but after this question mark, you guys will see key equals value. And then you see an ampersand. This thing right here is called an ampersand. Ampersand. It's not and. This does not mean and. This is a bigger concept than and. For those guys who speak English, ampersands were around before the word and came out. But its meaning is so similar that the English language adopted this symbol right here. The symbol has been around longer than English. Okay? So it's called an ampersand. So every single ampersand is separating us with a key, a different key, equals a different value. And we have 3 right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and move quickly, or more quickly. We're going to copy over this API right here, and now we're going to write a function. We're going to find a new function. This function will have one responsibility. It's going to...
Can you have a function like if a function?
Yes, you can, but you should not be doing that. You guys aren't in a level where you guys should be doing that right now. I don't want you guys to ever define a function. Actually, no, I'm going to tell you right now. In this class, never ever put a function inside of another function. Okay? Never ever do that. Okay? You guys aren't skilled enough yet. One day you guys can, but right now, every single function needs to be outside of a function. So we're going to define a new function. We're going to call it get conversion rate from API. I know that's quite long. But like I advised you guys yesterday, don't worry about it, okay? If you want to work at Apple, they got longer function names than this, okay? So now we're going to paste this bad boy in. Oops. So we're going to paste this in. And now, once again, remember that inside of this right here, inside of this string, there's a parameter. Q equals blah, 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 right? And depending on this value right here for the Q, it will give us a different conversion. So now we need to understand how to manipulate the string. How can we get the string to look different depending on certain values? So right now, I can tell you right now, we need to add one argument. It's going to be API key. And this one right here. Okay, so we stick this here. And that's the one thing that we need to add. Now we need to have this little piece right here of this string change. Right there, that we have highlighted. So I'm going to make this string. We're going to produce this string using string concatenation or backticks, and now we're going to inject something inside the string. We're going to say conversion. I don't know. That sounds like a good name for me. Conversion. Okay. So we're going to get our conversion from its arguments that are passed to this API or to this function call. So basically, when we call this function now, we need to know what we want to convert to and from. So on line 7, we're going to call the function, and then we're going to produce one string and pass it to this. So I'm going to stick in some more backticks, and we're going to stick from and to here. Okay? Does that make sense, everyone? So we're producing a conversion, and then we're going to pass that string to our call to get conversion rate from API. All right. So now there's some more syntax. Obviously, okay, so like this syntax right here, this we're going to talk about in more detail later in class, okay? But know that this is what we call an asynchronous function. In this class, we're going to learn a lot of English words, and a lot of them are going to be big. But don't worry, we're going to take them one day at a time, okay? So right now, just know that in order to make this an asynchronous function, we just need to stick the keyword async before function. Okay, so here's our string. We're going to call this const API. The next thing we need to do is call the API. On line 12, we simply produced a string and stuck it inside of a variable called API. So now we need to call it. So we do that by calling a function called fetch. And then the argument that we send to fetch, we pass to fetch, is a string, which is a URL. Next, we need to call another keyword await. So now we're going to take all this data that is returned and we're going to stick it inside of a variable called JSON. Okay? And now we're just going to look at it. So we're going to say looking at JSON. We're going to look at JSON. Okay? So my expectation is now that when we click this button, right? We click this button on line 28, we're going to call the convert currency function. This function is going to look at the from, look at the to, look at the amount, and then call a function at the end. We don't need to worry too much about everything that goes on, but right now, the main concern I want you to know is that at the very end of this, on line 6, we're going to call an API. And I'm going to prove to you guys that we call this API, okay? So we're going to refresh. I'm going to type in something. I click convert. Did we call that API? Yes, we did. Because when we got the response back from the API, we console logged it. Right here. Right? Looking at JSON. Looking at JSON. So this object is super fucking complicated. I'll tell you right now, it's super complicated. It's got a lot of black magic in it. Okay? But for the purpose of this class, it's just like me. I'm kind of complicated. I'm kind of complicated, right? I have a favorite color, a favorite movie, a favorite singer. But as far as you guys care, you guys don't give a shit about what my favorite color is. You guys only care that I teach you how to program. That is the only thing you guys need me for. You don't give a shit about what my favorite color is. Right? Right, Hang? Do you care what my favorite color is?
Maybe.
Do you care? Okay, let me ask, do you care how what my favorite shirt is at home?
No.
Okay, do you care what my favorite shoes are?
No.
Hang does not give a shit about all of that. She only cares about one thing in this class, whether or not Lloyd can teach her how to program. So in this case, we don't give a shit about all this. We need one little piece of data inside of this, okay? And I'm going to show you how to grab that out right now, okay? So right now, we got a whole shit ton of data back from this, but we don't care about all that. We only care about one little part of it, okay? So we need to do more. So now we're going to do const result is equal to JSON.json. We call a function right here called JSON, and this is just a free function that we get from JavaScript world. Now let's just look at that, okay? Let's replace it. We save it, refresh, we click convert. And now we see that we have a promise right here. I shouldn't be showing you guys this, fuck. Whatever, just throw an await right here, okay? We're going to do this more, I promise you, okay? Let me just start over. We throw it away, we click the button. And now we see that inside of this object, when we ran the .json, there was inside of that, there was another piece that they cared about, that we care about. What was it? Okay, there you go. That's exactly what we want. So we really want to look inside of that for a specific key, okay? And now we're going to call that key. And we already have the key available right here when we call this function, right? So we're just going to look at it. We save it, refresh, we click it. And did we get what we want yet? Almost. Steven's answer is 1000% correct, okay? We looked at the response. Then we look inside the JSON of the response, and then we look inside the key USD to VND. Now we have one more step. Now we need to look at the value. Okay? So now we're gonna say .value. We save it, we can click convert, and I guarantee you we get a number. And that is in fact what we get. Okay, so has our get conversion rate from API done what it's supposed to do? Yes, right? Like we got the conversion rate. That's exactly what we want this function to do. So now we're just going to delete that we have here. And then remember what I told you guys, right? Every function is going to return something. So I'm typing return at the bottom of this function because I want to get this value. Whatever's inside of here, I want to get it. And where do I want to stick it? Somewhere inside of convert currency. So we're going to stick this inside a new value. We're going to say conversion rate is equal to this. So on the very next line, we're going to say converted value is equal to conversion rate times amount. Oh, no, parsed amount. Let's say call it parsed amount. Parsed amount. Okay, so we've done a lot of work so far. We've written 18 lines of code. We talked about functions, data types, APIs, asynchronous. Let's just go ahead and work slow. We're gonna now just confirm that we've got what we want, okay? So we're gonna say const here, converted value, and we're just gonna look at it. Okay, so now this is where I think it should work. Do you guys think it should work? Who here thinks it should work? Okay. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna put in 100. I have 100 USD. I want UVND. If I click convert, my hypothesis is that we're gonna get 2.3 million, something like that. We click convert, and bam, we fucked up somewhere. It's okay to fuck up, guys. Okay, so now we fucked up. What can we do? Now we need to look at both these values. We fucked up somewhere. Fuck. God damn it. Let's just look at both of them now. Enter 10, and I hit convert. We have a promise, conversion rate promise right here. Why is that? Yes? Why do we not get something here?
Can I see the code?
Yes?
So in here, we call the API, right? And then it's gonna take like like 2 seconds to get the value, right?
Mhm.
Exchange rate. So this one take 2 seconds, but the next line gonna just run. You get it? So that's why, yes, it runs too fast. This JavaScript runs too fast. So you have to have this one calculating inside of the function.
Which one? Oh, we didn't have the calculation?
Yeah, this one take like 2 seconds. So
Okay, so
you
Bitna, despite the fact that her email is tall she needs to jump to show us what line. But she's talking about line 7, okay? Okay, so we're gonna do this calculation and then we're gonna return it. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna pass in an additional argument here. We're just gonna go ahead and pass in the amount as well, okay? So now that means that on line 17, we're gonna have the amount here. Amount available, okay? So we're now gonna switch this. We're gonna refactor. We're gonna say that this is gonna give us back our converted value. So now our get conversion rate from API, it takes the conversion, it takes the amount. Now we need to do more. We're gonna multiply this times the amount. Okay? Let's see if this fixes it. So we jump back, do 10, do convert. Okay, so conversion rate is undefined. That's this one right here. We save. We got 10 right here. We can do convert. Still a promise. Get conversion rate. It's
the console.log, these all should be into the function.
You're saying this all needs to be inside of here?
Yeah, inside of the get conversion.
Let's just see what happens right here. I want to see whether or not we get this correctly. Console.log red Superman. We save. We do 10. We do convert. Does red Superman produce the value we want? Yes, it does. Okay, so we did in fact get the correct amount. Why does it take a second? I think we need to make this asynchronous as well. So we're gonna do await and a sync right here. And now we just look at our converted value. Let's do 10, do convert, and there we go. So we actually needed 2 asynchronous functions. Don't worry guys, we're gonna figure out more about asynchronous functions as class goes, I promise you. Because we're gonna need to call APIs in the very near future. Okay, so now that we've got the converted amount, we need to do more. Okay, we're almost done guys, bear with me, okay? I know that there's a lot going on, okay? So now, once we get this converted amount, which we have right here, and we test right here, we need to do more. We need to stick this inside of the screen. Okay? So now we're gonna add a span here. And we're gonna say ID is equal to result. okay? And we're going to simply stick this inside of the, we're going to simply stick the converted amount inside of this span. So we're going to do document.getElement by ID, and it's going to be, the ID is what, guys? Result. Yes. We're going to do .inner.html is equal to the converted amount. Okay? So we're going to delete. Remember, delete as you go. That's okay. So now we're going to put in 150 USD, and we want to convert it to BND. We click convert. I expect that we should see something pop up right here if everything went okay, and it should be some number. So we click convert, and do we get a number here? Right? Okay, so now we're going to do one more step, okay? We're going to jump back over to our instructions. We're going to look at the previous day's work, and then we're going to look at format. This is so important. And remember, it's okay. Essentially, how did I get this, guys? Guess how I got this thing right here? What did you just say?
You Googled it.
I Googled it. That's all I did, okay? And I promise you guys can Google it too. And the truth of the matter is like, I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, guys. It's like, one day, if you guys are working at a tech company, and then you tell your technical lead, hey, I don't know how to do this. And that person simply types in Google and finds the answer that you needed, they're gonna be kind of pissed off at you. Like, why the fuck didn't you Google this, okay? And I guarantee you guys do that enough time. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. And you force your boss to Google for you, eventually they're just gonna be like, we should fire that person. They're gonna say that. First, they're gonna start thinking it, okay? They're gonna start thinking it first. And you keep doing that, eventually they're gonna fire you. I guarantee you, okay? So you guys gotta get in the habit of when you want to know how to do something, get in the habit of researching. Because researching is half our job, guys. It is literally half our job. Spend some time researching. I know that you guys have not developed that researching skills yet, those researching skills. So that's why we did some for you, okay? We researched for you. But just know in the future, you guys have to research yourselves, okay? So now I'm gonna copy this function over. I'm gonna paste it right here at the very top. I like pasting it above any function that, so this function format currency, does it call any other function that we define? No, it doesn't. It only calls functions that are defined by JavaScript. But this function right here, convert currency, does it call functions that we define? Yes, it does. It calls get conversion rate right down here. So get conversion rate should be placed above it, because we want to read this function and get conversion rate before we get here, because when we get to line 22, we want to already know what this does. Okay? And now let me ask you guys, is get conversion rate from API an appropriate name?
Yes.
No, it's not an appropriate name. Why is this not an appropriate name, guys? Let's think about what it's doing.
I suppose now it does more than just get a rate. Actually, now it delivers the actual final result.
Exactly. That's exactly what Ed just said. Get conversion rate from API is not an appropriate name for this function, because it's not only getting the conversion rate, it's also producing the final value right here on line 14. So now we're going to change this name. We're going to update as we go. We're going to say get converted value. That's actually what it's doing. So just know it's okay to constantly be renaming your functions as you go. That's actually encouraged. We want you guys to do that as you go. Once you write a name and then you realize that this function is doing something different because you refactored it and fixed it, change it. Change it to be something explicit. Okay? Remember, guys, if we name this function this, I don't know what the fuck that does. I cannot read that and understand what it does, and I guarantee you none of you guys can either. Right? This is just one of the functions. Imagine you change all of them like that. Okay, so we're almost there, guys. Hey, bear with me, we're almost there. So when the user clicks convert currency, let's think about the flow of it. The user, they load the page, all our HTML loads, right? When they click convert currency, it looks inside our scripts.js for a function called convert currency. It finds it. So when the user clicks it, it executes it. Inside of this function, we look at 3 values. We look for 3 inputs. We get 3 pieces of data from the user. This data is coming from the user, okay? We take those 3 pieces of data, we call another function that we defined. This function is going to look at that data, call an API, and based on that data, that API will give us a different conversion rate. On the very next line, we parse it. Okay, we're taking it and we're just saying, hey, I don't care about your fucking dog. I don't give a shit about what your dog's name is. Okay, I only care about this one thing you can do for me. So we're just saying, hey, that's what we're doing right here on line 13. We're saying throw away all that shit. Just give me what I want. Okay, and then on line 14, we're simply looking inside of what we want for the conversion, for the value, and we're multiplying it times the amount. That is how we're going to produce the final converted value. Because on line 14, we're returning from this function call, get converted value, whatever is returned from here is going to be stuck inside of what? Where do we call get converted value? Where do we call this function? Come on, guys. Someone tell me a line number. Pretend you're a programmer. Tell me a line number.
24.
Oh, close, close. Where do we call get converted value?
22.
Line 22, exactly. So when we call it on line 22, the return value of this function call is going to be stuck exactly where that line is. It's just going to go right here. That is where the return value is going to go, okay? And because the return value here is going to go to the right of this equal signs and this variable declaration, that's basically we're creating a new variable. So we create a new variable, and then what do we do with that variable?
Just label it on the HTML.
We just stick it inside the document, okay? That's all we do. Obviously, you guys can do much more with this, okay? So result 1, result 2. What if I just wanted to fuck around with our user? Like, all right, we'd call this one. We say ID is result 1, result 2. Okay. We save here. We jump back. We do a conversion. Watch as this changes. Oops. I do this wrong. ID result 2. ID result 2. Okay, didn't find this one. It failed. Okay, one more time. And we just stuck it up there. You can stick it wherever you want. I did this to be as a contrived point, okay? You can stick it wherever you want. And I know that some of you guys have already done this. So this might be a mute point. Oh, my bad. I forgot to do one other thing. My bad. Let's go ahead and format our currency. Okay, this is the last thing I'm gonna do, okay? So I'm gonna do format currency. We'll call it. And you guys know from what I told you guys earlier that this needs to take 2 arguments. Okay? So we refresh, we type in some values, we hit convert. And do we get our formatted version? Yes, we do. Okay, so do you have any questions so far, guys? I know that was kind of quick. Someone asked me some questions. Tell me something. Does anyone have any questions?
So I had a quick look at the API.
Yep.
On the documentation there.
Uh-huh.
So under that field,
Which one?
so you're on your free currency API. Yeah, that one.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when you have a look at the documentation within that,
Say again?
so when you're looking at this documentation, where
Yes.
is it you find that part that you essentially, you know how you did the research and you found async function, call API, brackets currency, let URL be.
Okay, so this JavaScript code right here, this is bigger than one API. You need to know this based on any API. The thing where we do asynchronous right here, and then the await keyword, this is bigger than a single API. You need to know this. Any API you call will have the same
Same syntax.
same what's the word I'm looking for here? Structure. We're still going to structure our API using this magical function called fetch. Okay, there's a magical function called fetch.
So that would essentially, if it was me doing it for the first time, I would then have to go and search linking an API into my CSS document.
So for you, all you need to know right now is the endpoint. Because right here, I know that like this is confusing, but this just takes practice. You got to do this a couple times before you memorize it.
So that endpoint though, that QS.
QS. I mean this right
The
here.
final point, so it's got Q
Yes.
and it's got equals and $sign.
Yes. This comes from reading the documentation right here. Like so you can see the example right here. They're showing you USD to PHP, ultra compact, multiple queries. They're saying right here, they're saying, hey, you can actually get multiple conversion rates here if you stuck in multiple ones in this following this way. And they give you something like this. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and freeze this screen. Let you guys look at it. You guys can read my code, see how pretty it is.